This story explores mature emotional themes such as grief, boundaries, and complex family dynamics. It does not contain explicit content, but viewer discretion is advised. He didn't just hold my hand, he clung to it. Not in the casual, distracted way people do during sad movies or long walks. No. His grip was too firm, too focused, too deliberate. And the moment our palms touched, I knew something was off. I should have let go. I didn't. It started 6 months after I married his father. Dylan was 23, quiet, thoughtful, the type who spoke only when he meant every word. He lived with us temporarily after finishing grad school, trying to figure out his next step. We weren't close, not in the usual stepmother-stepson way. I figured he'd be out of the house before we even had the chance to get used to each other. But grief changes things. It rearranges your life without asking. My husband, Mark, died suddenly. A heart attack. One moment he was arguing over the thermostat, the next he was face down on the living room floor. Dead before the ambulance even got there. I wasn't the only one shattered by it. Dylan didn't cry at the funeral. He stood like a statue the entire time, hands clenched, jaw locked. He didn't speak much for days. Just moved around the house like a ghost, his grief simmering quietly beneath the surface while mine screamed out loud. In the weeks that followed, we began talking more. Mostly in passing. He'd ask if I'd eaten, I'd remind him to take his shoes off before walking across the rug his father loved. Little things. Domestic things. We leaned on each other in that strange way people do when everyone else disappears after the burial. I'd catch him watching me sometimes. Not in a creepy way, at least, not at first. More like he was studying me. Like he was trying to figure out how I kept breathing after Mark was gone. I was still asking myself the same question. Then came the night of the storm. The house went dark around 10 p.m. Lightning lit up the windows, and thunder cracked like gunfire. I was in the kitchen, barefoot, holding a flashlight and cursing at the circuit breaker when Dylan appeared behind me, silent as ever. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. Just trying not to fry myself. He offered to help. I waved him off. 5 minutes later, the power still out, we sat in the living room, candles flickering between us, the air thick with that awkward kind of silence. The kind where you feel everything but say nothing. That's when he reached for my hand. I thought it was comfort. I thought he needed reassurance, something familiar to hold on to. I let him take it. But his fingers didn't just curl gently around mine. They tightened. He didn't look at me right away. Just stared straight ahead, his jaw twitching, as if he was fighting something, some thought, some feeling, too big to hold in. And when he finally turned to me, his eyes didn't look like a son's. They looked like something else entirely. I should have pulled away. But I didn't. Not because I wanted to encourage anything, but because I froze. That kind of freeze when your body senses danger, but your brain hasn't caught up yet. His grip eased slightly after a moment, but he didn't let go. And he still hadn't said a word. I cleared my throat. "Dylan," he looked at me then. His expression was unreadable, like he was trying to mask something but failing at it. Not desire. Not exactly. Something more complicated. Grief, maybe. Loneliness. Something that had taken the shape of a need but didn't know where to land. "I miss him too," I said, barely above a whisper. His jaw clenched. "You think I don't know that?" "No," I said. "I think we both don't know what to do with it." That seemed to land. He dropped my hand and leaned back, eyes darting toward the flickering candlelight. His face was pale, tired, like he hadn't been sleeping. Maybe he hadn't. I knew I hadn't. The bed felt too big now, the silence too loud. Dylan had always been close to his father, closer than I ever fully understood. They shared the same stubborn streak, the same dry humor. When we first got married, it was Dylan who warned me, he'll act like he doesn't care, but he remembers everything. Now, it felt like Dylan was trying to carry what was left of his father on his shoulders. And maybe, just maybe, that included trying to protect me, even if he didn't know how. In the weeks after that night, things between us shifted. Not dramatically, but just enough. We started spending more time together, which felt harmless at first. Cooking dinner, sorting through Mark's old things, watching reruns of shows none of us ever finished. It felt like we were trying to rebuild something from the ashes. Like survivors after a fire, salvaging pieces. But the air between us stayed charged. Like neither of us could say what we were really thinking. And there were moments, small ones, that made my stomach tighten. The way he'd glance at me too long when he thought I wasn't looking. The way his hand would brush mine and linger just a second more than it should. A late-night knock on my bedroom door that he brushed off as a mistake when I opened it. I kept telling myself it was nothing. That we were just two broken people stumbling through grief in the same space. That I was reading too much into things. But something had changed in him. Or maybe it had always been there, hidden beneath the surface, and now that Mark was gone, there was no one left holding it back. I started noticing how often he found reasons to touch me. A hand on my back when I passed by. Fingers brushing mine when I handed him a plate. A hug that held on just a little too long. Always subtle. Always just enough to stay explainable. But I felt it. In my gut. In the tightness in my chest every time we were alone together. He wasn't saying anything out loud, but he didn't need to. The storm had passed that first night, but the tension hadn't. It was still building, quiet and steady, like water rising behind a dam. And I didn't know how much longer it would hold. Grief does strange things to people. It rewires you, quietly. You don't notice it until you're doing things that don't feel like you. Like keeping secrets. 2 weeks after the storm, I got a call from Mark's sister, Elaine. She wanted to come by, check in, she said. I knew better. Elaine never just checked in. She was always watching, always judging, especially me. She'd made her feelings clear from the beginning. I wasn't Mark's first wife, and to her, I never measured up to the one who'd come before. Still, I said yes. When she arrived, Dylan was already in the backyard, fixing a busted section of the fence. I left him there. I didn't want Elaine getting any strange ideas. She was sharp even when she smiled, and lately, I'd been too tired to play the part of the perfect widow. She brought a casserole and a side of thinly veiled suspicion. We sat in the kitchen while she poked around my grief like it was something she could analyze and sort into neat little boxes. He always loved this kitchen, she said, looking around with that performative kind of nostalgia. Said it felt like home. I forced a smile. He did. She leaned in slightly. And how's Dylan handling things? I paused. Too long. As well as anyone, I guess. Funny, she said, tilting her head. He doesn't call me anymore. We used to talk every week. I shrugged. Maybe he just needs space. Elaine narrowed her eyes. Or maybe he's getting it somewhere else. The silence between us stretched thin. She eventually left, casserole untouched. But her words lingered. She'd seen something. Or felt something. And if she had, how long before someone else did? That night, I found Dylan in the living room, headphones on, flipping through an old photo album. He didn't hear me come in. There was a picture open. Mark, Dylan, and me, our first Christmas together. Mark was laughing, arms slung around both of us. I looked happy, caught mid-laugh. Dylan was staring straight at the camera. Not smiling. Just watching. He closed the album when he noticed me. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine," he said, but he wasn't. I hesitated, then sat beside him. Elaine came by. His shoulders tensed. "She thinks something's off." He scoffed. "She always thinks something's off. She's not wrong this time." He turned to look at me. "Is she?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. The line between us was too blurry now. I wasn't sure where motherly concern ended and something else began. That night, I dreamed I was walking through the house, but all the photos had Dylan's face. No Mark. Just Dylan. In every frame, staring straight at me. When I woke up, my heart was racing. The next day, an envelope showed up in the mailbox. No return address. Just my name, handwritten. Inside were 3 photos, printed from a phone, grainy but clear. One of Dylan brushing my hair from my face on the porch. One of us cooking, standing close. And one of his hand on my lower back as I reached into the fridge. None of them showed anything outright wrong. But seen together, they told a story. One that someone clearly wanted me to see. I stood there at the kitchen table with photos in hand, staring out at the backyard where Dylan was now hammering another plank into the fence like nothing had changed. But everything had. Someone was watching. And they knew. The envelope stayed on the table for hours. I couldn't bring myself to touch it again, but I couldn't throw it away either. Every time I passed it, my stomach twisted. The photos were quiet accusations, proof that someone had been watching us, closely enough to catch what I'd worked hard to ignore. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak of the house sounded louder than usual. At 2:11 a.m., I heard footsteps outside my bedroom door. Not fast. Slow. Measured. They stopped. I held my breath. Nothing. Then came a knock, soft, but deliberate. "Leah?" Dylan's voice. I didn't answer. He waited a few seconds, then I heard his hand on the doorknob. Testing it. Locked. "Thank God." "I just wanted to make sure you were okay," he said through the door. "I'm fine," I answered, voice steady but cold. "Good night, Dylan." Silence. Then retreating footsteps. He didn't try again. The next morning, I called the only person I could think of who might know something, Elaine. She answered after 2 rings. I wondered how long it'd take. "What does that mean?" I asked, already on edge. "I didn't send those photos," she said. "But I've had my suspicions for weeks." My throat tightened. "Who then?" "I don't know. But whoever it is, they're close enough to care, and bold enough to want you scared." I hung up feeling worse than before. Either Elaine was lying, or someone else had been watching our house. Someone close. By the time I turned around, Dylan was standing in the kitchen doorway. "How long have you been there?" I asked, trying to sound casual. I failed. "Long enough," he said. "You think I don't see the way you look at me now?" "I think you need to give me space," I said carefully. He took a step forward. After everything we've been through? I've been here, picking up the pieces, while everyone else disappeared. I didn't ask you to, I snapped, the fear finally breaking through my restraint. I never asked you for any of this. His jaw clenched. You didn't have to. That stopped me cold. I backed toward the hallway, my heartbeat loud in my ears. Dylan, I need you to leave. You don't mean that. I do. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just stared at me with this look, half betrayal, half something darker I couldn't name. Then he turned and walked out the front door without another word. The silence he left behind was worse than any shouting. I locked every door and every window. Then I sat on the couch, knees pulled up, the envelope back in my hands. I studied the handwriting again. No name. No warning. Just watching. At 4 p.m., the power went out. No storm this time. Just darkness. My phone buzzed. One text. You can't erase him by replacing him. No number. Just the message. And I realized this wasn't just about Dylan anymore. Someone else was in this with us. Watching. Waiting. And they were about to make their move. I stared at the text until the screen dimmed. You can't erase him by replacing him. I'd spent days trying to convince myself this was all grief, confusion, misread signals. That Dylan was just broken, same as me. But this message, this threat, meant someone else saw what was happening, and believed something I hadn't wanted to name. I turned off the phone and grabbed my keys. I had to get out. Clear my head. Get space between me and the house, me and Dylan. As I opened the front door, I nearly collided with him on the porch. Jesus' Dylan, he didn't flinch. Where are you going? I need air, I said, forcing calm. I need space. He took a step back but didn't move aside. You think I'm the problem? I didn't answer. Not directly. I just need to think. His face twisted in something like pain. I've lost my dad. I've lost everything. And now you're shutting me out too? I'm not your replacement for him, I said, the words bitter on my tongue. He laughed, sharp, dry. No. But you were the only part of him I had left. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Another message. You should ask Dylan what he told the lawyer. My blood ran cold. What lawyer? I asked, out loud this time. Dylan's expression changed instantly. Just a flicker, but I saw it. Recognition. Guilt. Dylan, I said, voice rising. What lawyer? He hesitated. Then, it doesn't matter. It's done. What did you do? He looked away. Dad's will. I had it changed. Before he died. I stepped back. You what? It was legal, he said quickly, too quickly. He asked me to look over everything. He said he wanted to make sure you were taken care of. But he wasn't specific. I swallowed hard. So you made it specific. He nodded once. I made sure I was the one in control of the estate. I didn't think he'd die so soon. And you didn't tell me? His silence was answer enough. I turned, fumbling with my phone, dialing the one number I hadn't in weeks, Mark's lawyer. Voicemail. I hung up, heart pounding. I felt the floor of my life shift under me. All this time, I thought Dylan was spiraling from grief. That we were both stuck in the same nightmare, trying to navigate the wreckage of losing Mark. But Dylan hadn't just lost his father. He'd taken control of everything before the man even died. And someone else knew. Someone who had been watching. Someone who had sent those photos. Someone who wanted me to see the truth, not about Dylan's feelings, but about his betrayal. He hadn't been lost. He'd been planning. And now, I didn't know who I was more afraid of, him, or the person trying to warn me. The front door slammed behind me. I didn't wait for Dylan to follow. I drove, hands shaking, mind racing. I didn't have a destination, I just needed space, distance, anything that didn't feel like a trap. Everything felt poisoned now. The house. The silence. Even our grief. I ended up in the parking lot of the law office, even though it was after hours. The building was dark. I sat in my car and stared at it, hoping the answers inside would undo what I'd just learned. My phone buzzed again. Private number. Voicemail. I played it. A woman's voice. Soft. Familiar. You don't know me, but I knew Mark before you did. And I know what Dylan did. He came to me for help with the paperwork, said it was urgent, said his father wanted it done quietly. But when I saw the date, 3 days before Mark died, I knew something wasn't right. You need to look in the safety deposit box. Ask for box 17. It's still under Mark's name. I froze. I remembered Mark talking about it once, early in the marriage. A box he kept for just-in-case scenarios. He never said what was in it. I never asked. I drove straight to the bank. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in a back room, gloves on, heart pounding, staring at a file inside box 17. Inside, a copy of the original will. Mark had never changed it. He'd left me everything. The house. The accounts. Even a personal letter, sealed, with my name in his handwriting. I opened it with trembling fingers. Leah, if you're reading this, something's gone wrong. I love Dylan. But I know my son. He buries things too deep. He's loyal to a fault, but that fault, if unchecked, will ruin him. You've seen it by now. I hope I'm wrong. But if he ever tries to take control, this is your proof. I read the last line over and over, don't let your kindness blind you. Grief makes people dangerous. I left the bank with the folder in my hands and a knot in my throat. Dylan had manipulated the lawyer. Lied to me. Tried to isolate me. But this was Mark's voice cutting through the fog, telling me I wasn't crazy. Telling me I had to act. When I got home, he was waiting. He stood in the living room, holding the envelope of photos. Who's sending these? He asked, voice low. You think I did it? No, I said, stepping closer. I think you were too busy trying to control the damage to realize someone else was watching. I placed the original will on the coffee table. His face drained of color. You went to the bank. I did, I said. Mark never changed it. You forged the revision. Silence. Just the ticking of the wall clock. He didn't deny it. I thought I was protecting what was his, he finally said. I thought I was protecting you. No, I said, eyes burning. You were protecting your version of him. And in doing that, you erased mine. He dropped to the couch, head in his hands. For the first time, he looked small. Not threatening. Just broken. Lost. And I didn't feel angry anymore. Just tired. I picked up the photos. On the back of one, a handwritten message in faint ink, he was mine before he was yours. Elaine. The twist wasn't Dylan trying to take control. It was Elaine trying to destroy him. To turn me against him. To punish both of us for loving Mark in our own flawed ways. I sat down beside Dylan. Not close. Just enough to be in the same room without pretending things could go back. I'll give you one chance, I said quietly. You fix this. You tell the lawyer everything. And then you leave. You don't get to rewrite our story. He nodded, eyes wet. Okay. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel dangerous. Just final. Dylan left 2 days later. He didn't argue. He didn't fight it. He handed the lawyer a full confession, voided the altered documents, and gave up his claim to the estate. Quietly. Respectfully. Maybe for the first time, he understood the damage he'd done, not just to me, but to the memory of his father. I didn't call the police. That decision took everything in me, but I figured punishment doesn't always have to come from a courtroom. Sometimes, knowing you betrayed the last person who truly loved you is enough. Elaine never reached out again. But I knew she had tried to poison the space between us. Her grief had twisted into something vengeful, and she'd tried to make sure no one came out clean. The photos stopped. The power stayed on. And slowly, the house felt like mine again. Not because I owned it, but because I earned it. I lived in it. With the memories. With the mistakes. With the truth. The moral? Grief doesn't give you permission to rewrite history. It doesn't excuse betrayal. And love, real love, doesn't need to hide in shadows, or pretend to be something it's not. I survived losing my husband. I survived the storm that came after. And somehow, I came out stronger, clearer, and more certain of who I am.